Hello, my name is Mary Johnstun. I'm the project director for the Pennsylvania Youth Survey. I'm really pleased to be recording this webinar to provide some introduction and tutorial for the PAIS web tool, which is actually a tool that we created way back in 2013. But this year, of course, we're releasing 2021 data, and we're also releasing a new feature, which is district level password protected access. So we're hoping to have even more data users in this web tool than ever before. And I want to provide a little bit of an introduction and tutorial to kind of guide your way through this. Just know that honestly, EPIS Center and PCCD will be releasing more and more tutorials and trainings when it comes to this web tool. So this is just one of many opportunities to learn about the web tool and to kind of get some experience in using it. So let me go ahead and dive in. Again, today I just want to provide an overview and an introduction. I want to give you an overview, walk through the homepage in terms of what you might see when you go to the site. Within this web tool, there are actually three different kind of smaller tools. So I want to spend some time on each of those three tools and talk about how each tool is different, different scenarios when you might want to use that tool, etc. So the first tool, apologies, is the categories tool, and we'll talk about that more later. The next tool is the variables tool. And finally, we have the crosstabs tool. I want to, after I go through this PowerPoint, which we'll just be using screenshots, I want to go to the actual tool and just walk you through and show you, do a little bit of application and practice. And along the way, I'm hoping that I cover a lot of, just organically cover a lot of frequently asked questions that come up within this survey, but just know that there will be future opportunities to ask questions in a webinar or a format or First Wednesdays at 1. And then we are also always available to provide technical support and answer questions if you have them. So let's get started. In general, in terms of history, again, like I said, this is something we built for PCCD in 2013. This has always offered county and state level data access for PAIS. This is the first year for 2021 that we are offering districts the ability to log in with a password so that they can access their specific district or charter school level data. In general, that is the biggest feature that we're excited to add this year. And overall, all of the three tools, the category tool, the variable tool, and the crosstab tool, offer some really powerful and interesting data access that will allow you to really dive into your data and look at it in new and different ways. So this is the home page, and let me just point out a few of the features. In general, this is the page is going to, of course, give you an overview of all of the features within this particular tool. It will provide web links that will guide you to Bach Harrison, where you might want to follow up with me for questions. It will guide you to a PAIS how-to guide and workbook for school professionals, which is a tremendous resource. It will also take you to the PAIS portal. For new visitors, you definitely want to get started at the getting started. For anyone who you are advising, use this portal or use the web tool, you might want to either have them watch this webinar or at least start at that getting started page. The categories tool is the first one, and this allows you to look at a broad topic from a narrow audience. So for example, the topic of bullying across many survey items for 8th grade male students. So again, a more broad topic for a narrow audience. The variables tool allows you to look at one very specific survey question or variable by a broader audience. So for example, looking at frequency of bullying, which is one survey question, by all grades. So you could see how students in grades 6, 8, 10, and 12 answer that one specific question. The crosstabs tool feature allows you to explore data relationships. So a crosstab is short for cross-tabulation, and it is kind of what it sounds like, where we take one question, and we take another question, and we cross-tab it. And that intersection is what the crosstab shows. So for example, if you want to study frequency of bullying in relation to suicide ideation, you would be able to see that intersection where how bullying has what its relationship with suicide ideation is for students within Pennsylvania or your county or your district, etc. If you are new to the prevention world or you know someone who is, please take some time within the prevention tab or page to learn about how PCCD and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania use these data. And then contacts is where you might have questions. You might want to reach out to Bach Harrison. Honestly, following this webinar, you might want to get a hold of me. And contact is where you might go to do that. And another cool feature, again, I'm going to drill this in over and over because this is a new feature and we're really hoping that districts use this tool. Over here is the login tool. So these 3 horizontal bars, superintendents, this is where you would go and click on that to be able to, once you log in, you will be able to see your district level data. And then also these 3 little bars is where you would go to create additional data, district administrators who can create additional users, or data users who can only access the data and not necessarily create additional users. Let's first talk about the data categories tool. The data categories tool here, you're going to see just kind of a screenshot of what that looks like without any particular information in it. You're going to use this tool if you're interested, again, in looking at a broad topic for a more narrow audience. So, for example, suicide risk for specifically students who marked they were 12th grade, female students, or just 12th grade students in general, not disaggregated by gender. And so again, you're looking at multiple survey items within one topic area, but for a more fine-tuned audience. This is really great if you are interested in creating charts or tables. And I like to think of the categories tool as something that's really helpful at a very focused level. So let's say you're a middle school counselor. And honestly, you don't have 6th graders within your school, you only have 8th graders. You might love the categories tool because it will allow you to explore topics that are relevant to you as a counselor in terms of mental health, suicide risk, depressive symptoms, bullying, and anything like that. It will allow you to look at a bit broader topic specifically for your district's 8th grade students. And then you can break that down by district, 8th grade male students, district 8th grade female students, and 8th grade students marking the other category for gender. Which leads me to a point. This is the first year where we have expanded the gender question to include that other option for students to mark. The numbers from this might be bigger than you would guess, but they're also quite small. So we do have suppression rules that are in play. So if you do not see the other pop up when you're looking at your data analysis, it means that there weren't at least a minimum of 10 honest, valid surveys for students within that subgroup. So for example, our suppression rules are a little bit broader at the grade level. So you will not see data within the data or the Webtool if you do not have at least 25 honest students at the grade level. So there needs to be at least 25 6th graders, 25 8th graders, 25 10th, 25 12th to even see any data for that grade. But then at that subgroup, so if we're looking at 10th grade male, 10th grade female, 10th grade other, at that smaller subgroup level, there needs to be a minimum of 10 students. And this is 100% designed to protect the anonymity and confidentiality of the survey, to protect the privacy of students. And so those are in play. They work in the background. You don't have to do anything. And the Webtool will only show you what you can access with those suppression rules included. There are 5 simple steps for using the category tool, and you're going to find a lot of repetition here. These are the steps you're going to follow for most of these tools. First, you're going to select a category. You will select an entity type. So you'll select state, county, or if you are logged in, you will see districts. You will select if you want to see 1 year of data or 3. You will select a grade level, and you're going to select the gender if you want. The default is always to roll all genders together. And likewise, you can actually look at the grade level data. You can look at all grades combined. So let's look at an example for the category bullying and internet safety. This is what you might see on your screen if you clicked the category bullying and internet safety. You put in the entity type with state. Of course, that's Pennsylvania. You're looking at all 3 years of data for grade 8 for female students. So you can see here we have a chart that shows 3 years of data from 2017, 2019, and 2021. You're able to kind of look at that 3-year trend. There's a table down below that will allow you to see those data again, but for those 3 years. You can export the data by clicking on this button down here. That will download a CSV. This is really great if you want to do any comparisons or build your own charts. So for example, let's say you want to look at this topic for bullying and internet safety at the state level, and you also want to look at it at your county level and your district level. You would honestly just kind of change these up here to what you were selecting. Export each time. It will export in the same format, and you can just kind of integrate those easily in Excel and create that. Note, if you are looking at the data at the county level or school district level, you will actually also see a state level dot here in the middle of each of these that will show you a state level comparison, which is a really cool feature. Actually, an interesting note, in the profile reports that we submit, you actually only see the latest state level comparison. So your profile reports only include 2021 state level data. The Webtool is actually where you go and you'll see 3 comparisons. So the Webtool is actually more powerful in terms of seeing how your data compare to the state over a 3-year timeline. If you are curious about any of these particular survey items or variables, you can actually, these are web linked. So you can actually click on each of these, or these are hyperlinked. You can click on any of them and they're going to send you straight to this variables tool. But I want to specifically talk about the variables tool. You can also just click on this up here. For this variables tool, honestly, you're going to see almost a very similar starting page. So you're going to use this tool if you're interested in looking at a more narrow topic from a broader audience. So let's say you're working at a district level or a county level or a community level or a state level. And honestly, you don't want to just start looking at 8th graders. You want to see across all grades, maybe where your strengths are, maybe where there's pockets of need. So the variables tool allows you to drill down and look at one survey item across all grades or across all genders. You do have to pick whether you look at it by grade or by gender. So this might be great, again, if you are grant writing or reporting or doing a needs assessment. This is a really great tool that will allow you to see maybe where the greatest need is, or again, where the greatest areas of strength are. You can also, again, create charts and tables from these data. And we have 5 very similar steps. First, you're going to select a category. Then you're going to select a variable item within that category. You're going to select the level of data to review. That's your entity type. You're going to select state or county, or if you are logged in as a district admin, you're going to select district. You choose whether to view the data by gender or grade. You're going to adjust the format, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then let's show you an example of what that looks like. So we're going to use our variables example is going to be inappropriate internet contact by grade, which you might remember is actually one of the variables reported within that bullying and internet safety category. So let's just say we clicked on that hyperlink down here in the categories page and it popped us directly to here, or you can go to this variables tab up here and just click on that and it's going to send you here. So again, we're looking at the same population, state, Pennsylvania. We're looking at the data by grade. And we're able to look at 3 years of data for all grades and then all grades combined. So grades 6, 8, 10, 12, and then all of those combined. It's interesting across the 3 years. It's interesting to see that inappropriate internet contact has increased somewhat for 6th graders over time, but it's decreased for all other grades. All of the same features exist. You can export the data in CSV. You can toggle it to change the y-axis, and I'll show you how that works when we do the demonstration. You can also download, this is something I didn't mention before, you can click on this button to see your participation table. So maybe you're curious about, it looks like 10.5% of 6th graders experienced inappropriate internet contact in the last year. For how many students is that? This becomes more interesting at a state level, at a county level or district level, when you want to know what does 10.5% mean? How many students does that represent? you would go to the participation table and it would show you the number of students participating in that grade that would allow you to kind of understand how these percentages translate to numbers. Let's look at an example, our shift to Crosstabs tool. And this is where I'll be spending a good chunk of the time because this is one of the more complex tools. So you're going to use the Crosstabs tool if you're interested in really diving into your data. You don't want to just know how many students experience one thing or another. You want to know about the relationships. What questions relate to others? This is a great tool to help you understand if you are working on one specific problem, like bullying or school climate or family conflict or honestly anything we gather in PACE. If you're interested in that one topic, the Crosstabs tool allows you to take your analysis to a whole different level. By studying the different relationships and impacts that might correlate, we're talking about correlation, not causation, that might correlate or show a relationship with that particular item. So that is an important thing to note is when we talk about correlation, that's not necessarily causation. So there are limits to this type of look, and this type of tool and analysis is really, you're just looking at a relationship. There's no really in-depth statistical analysis, t-tests or z-scores or chi-square. This tool is not doing that. It's simply showing you what the relationship is. So again, just know that. And two, you will find as you play around with this tool that there are relationships between many questions. So when you're using this tool, it's definitely important to view it from the perspective of, the two questions you pick are not the 100% like the only cause for certain behaviors. So really just kind of think of it in that terms and just sort of explore those relationships. The Crosstabs tool is really wonderful if you're interested in grant writing, reporting, proposal writing, if you're making a really powerful presentation to a high stakes group, or anything like that, where you need to tell a really compelling and impactful data story. And then also, if you're really just wanting to take your data analysis to the next level to build a really powerful needs assessment, the Crosstabs tool is really perfect for that. Just note that this is considered to be more of an advanced tool. I would like you to proceed with caution and care. It is really easy to misinterpret or misrepresent these data, but I am 100% not telling you to not use this tool. I'm going to be talking over the next few slides about how to use this tool. And honestly, after this tutorial, you should be able to dive in. So I do not want you to hesitate from diving in. I do want you just to spend some time with the tool, to get to know it, to use it, to practice it, and then just to be a little bit cautious, making sure you understand what the data are saying and what the interpretation is before you release them. We have 5 simple steps here. Again, you're going to select state, county, or if you are a district who is logged in, you're going to select district. This one has 2 new things where we have 2 questions. So again, we're talking about the cross tabulation, one question by another, and you got to figure out what those questions are, and then also figure out what that intersection is that will tell your data story. So question 1 is what we call our primary variable. And first you start with a filter, and then that filter is going to help you to identify the questions that feed into that topic area. And all of the filters are set up by categories. So the same categories that you saw in the category tool and the variable tool is what you're going to see here that will allow you to filter. So your first question 1 is your primary variable, or I like to call it your what. So what you want to explore and what you want to study, and we'll talk about that more. Your question 2 is filter, and then the question itself. This is what we call your contextual variable, and this is your question 2 is your who, and that even rhymes. So a lot of time, because your who is actually in my mind when I use the tool, that is actually where my brain starts when I think about what I want to analyze or look at. Sometimes you might even just start with your question 2. Just because it's called question 2 doesn't mean it has to come second in terms of how you put in the data, or how you select your questions. So that is your who that you want to understand. You're going to select the grade, population, gender, and then again, you can't always default to all grades combined, and it will pop up, or it will look like something like this. So this is an example of a Crosstabs formula that I have put in that studies My who is students who perceive perceptions of how wrong their parents feel it is for them to use alcohol. So in my mind, my who is maybe students whose parents think it's not wrong at all to use alcohol. Or in my mind, maybe my who is students who perceive that their parents actually feel it's very wrong to use alcohol. And then my what I want to know about those students is if they actually drink alcohol. So I want to study that relationship. A quick note, there is a nice page that will walk you through the Crosstabs tool and provide some instruction. The PACE question reference is a really wonderful reference that will allow you to look at all questions to kind of see what's available. And let's just kind of dive into this more. So the data reported in this tool are going to change based on what you select for question 1 and question 2 and the order in which they are selected. So again, your question 2 is your who, and your question what is question 1. So in the instance I just said, honestly, this order that I have placed here, my who is students whose parents feel it's not wrong at all to use alcohol or feel it's very wrong to use alcohol. My what is whether or not my what is 30-day alcohol use. Did they actually use? If I switch those, my who would actually become alcohol users or students who didn't use alcohol. That is my who. And then of those students who either did or did not use alcohol, I would know the what, which is what their parents thought about their perceptions about underage or their child drinking. So those seem very different, and in your mind, you would expect the data to be output in a very similar format, but you will find different data. And so that order is just so important. So just be mindful about looking at the data, be patient in terms of looking at it and taking time to study how they're different to make sure that you got your interpretation correct. So I have created, this is kind of a template or a formula for interpreting the data that I use over and over again. So the key is to find your 100%, and I'll show you what I mean by that, and then to read down and then use this formula. So of students responding, something to question 2, my who. So of students who said their parents felt it was not wrong at all to use alcohol, X is, or Y is the way that those students responded to question 1. So of the students who responded, their parents think it's not wrong at all to use alcohol, 20% actually did use alcohol. So let's show an example, again in words before I actually show you the chart. Excuse me. So again, for this, if I'm interested in 30-day alcohol use in relation to students whose parents feel it's not wrong at all for them to use alcohol, my Q1 would actually be the alcohol use. That's the what I want to know about those students. And my Q2 is how wrong do your parents feel it would be to use hard liquor, alcohol, or wine, beer, etc. If you're not sure about the order, in general, or if this is stumping you, in general, again, just kind of think about that question 2 is your who. Really kind of think about the population of students, or honestly, if you're working in a district and a pocket of students are struggling with this, really think about who they are and what it is you want to know about them from that component of their life. The who could be, in this instance, students whose parents think it's not wrong to use alcohol. Your who could be students who are depressed or suicidal. Your who could be students who have been bullied. Your who could be students who have a strong connection with teachers. Your who could be students who are volunteers. Your who could be any type of student based off all the questions that PACE has. And your what is, what do I want to know about them? And the what is also incredibly important. It helps you to kind of understand that who better, understand those students better, and to understand the relationships that impact their lives. So this is what pops up when I put the data in this particular order. So again, what I said before about finding the 100 and reading down, I meant that. So you would find the 100 and read down. So for example, of students who feel, here's the 100, I'm going to read down, of students who feel their parents think or perceive their parents think it's very wrong for them to have a drink of alcohol. Of those students, 91.8% had not used alcohol in the past 30 days. Versus of students who felt their parents thought it was wrong, not very wrong, just wrong. All of a sudden we have far fewer that have not used alcohol in the past 30 days. If you find the 100 and read down, you can't actually add numbers together. You never, ever want to add numbers across. You only want to add numbers down towards that 100. So I could potentially say, of students who feel their parents think it's very wrong to use alcohol, 91.8% said no. And then I could add these together to provide the percentage of students who indicated one or more uses of alcohol within the last 30 days. When we flip those, and you can easily just reverse them by clicking this reverse questions button, the data are different. Our who and our what are different, right? So, for example, now our who is alcohol users or non-users. So here I find the 100 and I read down of students who indicated no occasions of alcohol use in the past 30 days. Of those students, 73.7% of them said their parents thought it was very wrong for them to use alcohol. So not all of them, but a very big chunk of them. Versus 16.9% said wrong, etc. Versus of students who said their parents of students who had used alcohol 1 to 2 occasions in the past month. Of those students were more likely to indicate that their parents thought it was wrong, a little bit wrong, or not wrong at all. So those kind of the perception of disapproval kind of changes. So you can see these are two different data stories, correct? So that order is really important. So we just, again, I would suggest you to kind of exercise those muscles where you're trying your two questions in two different ways, always reverse it, find the 100 and read down, and just get a feel for, honestly, I would challenge you every time you use the Crosstabs tool to see the question both ways, and then to just make the determination, make the decision about which of those fits the data story or is telling the story that you want to share in whatever capacity you want to share it. Okay, so up next, we're going to take a look at the site and see what it can do. Also, if you want to pause this video here, you can see that my email address is down here. I won't be coming back to this later. My contact information, or Bach Harrison's contact information, is also in the Webtool, and I'll be showing that in just a bit. So let me go ahead and pause here, and we'll switch over to that other screen. Okay, let's look at the PEIS Webtool itself. So here, the PEIS Webtool is very simply named. The PEIS Webtool loves Google. So if you do not have this bookmarked, you can actually just Google PEIS Webtool. It pops up. We'll take you to the tool itself. Again, you're kind of seeing the homepage, which I walked you before. Each of the tools here, categories tool, variables tool, crosstabs tool, are available here. I want to show you really quickly what this tool looks like when you're not logged in. When you're not logged in, you will always only see state and county level data. Because I do want to show you what the data look like when you are logged in as a district administrator. We are hoping to grow the number of data users because hopefully we have a lot more district level admins. You're going to go over here to the corner. I'm going to pretend that I am Murray Johnstun, the superintendent of any town school district, which is a fictitious school district. And I have created my own login. And now that I am logged in as Superintendent Johnstun, now when I go over here, all of a sudden within the entity type, I will have the ability to select district. And then within that district, I only see the district I have permission to access. So just know that your data, when you are logged in, that is the only district you will see. You will never get access to anyone else's district. So let's say I want to look at data for any town school district. Within this categories tool, I've just randomly selected attitudes favorable to drug use. So this is parents who feel it's not wrong at all or a little bit wrong to use marijuana or drink alcohol regularly, or not wrong at all, a little bit wrong to for someone my age to drink alcohol or someone my age to use marijuana. So we've got kind of personal perceptions and parental perceptions. We have 3 years of data, so 2017, 2019, and 2021. And you can see here, because I'm looking at the data at a district level, and you'll see the same for county level, is I do have 3 years of state comparison data. If I do want to check the participation, I can see that any town district has these participation levels across the 3 years. If I want to export the data, I simply click on this button. And you can see here that it has downloaded a CSV file of this table. And then also I can right click on this chart and save image as, and it will save an image for me if I want to use this in a PowerPoint. Let's say these numbers or these percentages are quite low. So let's say I want to download a chart that shows a smaller y-axis that's not 100. If I click this button here, it adjusts the y-axis so that I can just see things a little bit more clearly. If you're looking at any question where the percentages are very low, you might want to use that toggle. And then because if you want to kind of follow the rabbit down the hole, you can go ahead and just click on any of these in the table, and it's going to take you directly to the variables tool up here. And then the great thing about kind of following it that way is that the system will go ahead and just populate in what you had selected before. So again, we can take a look at the data by district or grade. Of note is when you look at the data by gender, it will show when I have all grades combined, there are enough students to meet that minimum threshold where I can see students who indicated or marked other for their gender when I do look at these data this way, and I can see how those students compare to the state. We only have 1 year of data for that. But I want to go back to the categories tool, and I can just actually click this toggle, go back to categories. And I want to show you sort of how that suppression works at the grade level. So let's say we want to look specifically in the categories tool at grade 10. You can see here that when I select gender, I only have the option to look at all genders combined, female or male students. Other does not pop up here. It's because that grade alone did not have a minimum of 10 students marking that option. So looking at all genders combined is the way that I am going to be able to look at that. And then two, if I go to grade all, and then I'm selecting gender all, then honestly, when all the grades are rolled up together, all of a sudden I do actually have enough students to be able to select other. So if you're wanting to look at the data in that way, just know those are the limitations and also the workarounds. You might just need to go to the next level up, all grades combined, or if you're a school district where you still aren't seeing it, you might want to go to your county level data. And if your county is too small, then honestly, you would need to default to maybe a neighboring county or to the state level data. So again, these are just kind of the overall features of the categories tool and the variables tool. These are by far the easiest just to play around with. Just play around with them. The data you're seeing here are exactly as it's reported in your profile report. And I want to provide an example, a little bit more in-depth example of the Crosstabs feature. So a few features, if you click on this using Crosstabs, it's going to pull up a page that will allow you to give some instruction on how to do that. You can also look at the PAYS question reference. So if you are new to PAYS and you're really not quite sure what the survey has in it, but you're coming to the site with an idea of what you would like to look at or a certain population you would like to understand, the question reference, which you can export in Excel format, is really powerful. You can filter it by any of these things. So let's say you want to filter it by community laws and norms favorable to drug use. That would pop up the questions that are related to that. Let's say you want to look at filter by bullying and internet safety. You would see the questions that apply to that. Or you can just honestly leave all the questions up and on your keyboard, just select Control F. And let's say I'm doing work on a family program, a family-based education program. I could just type in the word family, and this will highlight any question that has the word family in it. And that would give me a sense to just kind of all the questions that relate to that specific keyword. That's a good example of a keyword search. So let's say I am, let's do a county level analysis. Let's use Bucks County as an example. And again, county and state level data is publicly accessible. So anyone could come on and look at county and state level data without any type of login. Let's go ahead and look at all grades combined. Let's look at all genders combined. And let's use the filters. Let's use that example that I used before in terms of perceived parental acceptability and then substance use. So my who is, again, students, let's see, attitudes favorable to drug use. That's the filter I'm going to use. And then actually, it looks like these are sort of personal perceptions, which actually that might be interesting. Let's go ahead and just stay there. So let's do how wrong do you think it is for someone to use marijuana? So this is a student's personal perception about marijuana use. And because we're talking about marijuana use, let's actually look at marijuana use for 30-day use. So the filter I'm going to use for that is early initiation and higher prevalence drugs for 30-day use. And I'm going to select the filter for in the past 30 days have you used marijuana. And here you can see for Bucks County, for all grades combined, all genders combined, I'm going to find the 100 and read down. So find the 100 here of students within Bucks County who say they personally think it is not wrong at all for someone their age to use marijuana. About 40% of those students, because I can add these up, I am in the 100 column, I can add these up, about 40%, just shy of 40%, said that they have used marijuana one or more times, versus of students who felt it was very wrong to use marijuana personally. Nearly all of those students had not used marijuana. There were just a very small percentage of students who had used 1 or 2 occasions or 3 to 5 occasions. So this is really interesting, compelling data, right? You can also, while you are here, if you feel like, honestly, you've got the questions in the right order, this is where I would stay put and start playing around with the data. So maybe you want to look at how these data compare to a neighboring county, or you want to see how these data compare to the state. You would just need to change some of these to be able to see if that relationship is the same. And you could always go back. So while you have the questions in the right order, feel free to just kind of test different relationships. Or if you are a district level user, check how it relates to your district to see how those compare. Or while you're here, you say, well, this is all grades combined. But how does this apply to our 10th graders? Is the relationship about the same? And it is about the same. Let's see how it relates to our 6th graders. Oh, well, 6th graders in Bucks County, 100%. If they thought it was very wrong to use marijuana, they thought they weren't actually using. And 12th graders, this is interesting. This is a little bit different. Of 12th graders within Bucks County, a few more, maybe it's still an overwhelming majority of those that thought it was very wrong did not use, but it's slightly less than when we look at all grades combined. So this is kind of interesting, right? So when you get the order that you want, just dig in your heels and kind of start playing around with some of these other things to look at different things. If you want to take this table and place it in Excel, there is no export button, but because it's not really a static image, is ultimately what it boils down to. If you just select it all, hit Control-C or copy, and then paste it into Excel, it will actually paste it in, formatted and fully ready to go. So again, I would encourage everyone to go ahead and flip the questions just to get a handle. It might surprise you. Honestly, when you reverse the questions, it might tell a more compelling data story. So again, you're going to find the 100 and you read down. So here are who is students, whether they did or did not use marijuana. So of students who said they used marijuana, 0 occasions, this is our question 2. I'm going to find the 100 and read down. Of the students that did not use, 35% said they thought it was very wrong, 20.5% said it was wrong, 24.9% said a little bit wrong, and 19.5% said not wrong at all, which is interesting, right? So of marijuana users who don't use, a lot of them have perception, not having that perception that being a non-marijuana user, which most students aren't, being a non-marijuana user, they can still have different perceptions about how wrong it is to actually use it, versus students who use 1 to 2 times in the past month. Of those students, that's our who, It's different. Only half of those said it was not wrong at all. And the percentage of those saying it was very wrong was greatly diminished. It's only 5.3%. So this still shows a similar relationship, right? Similar but different. Not as impactful. It's a little bit harder to explain or harder to analyze. And two, because we can only add things 100 in the column. We can't add them across. We can't really compare like number of occasions of use. We can't add anything here. So this, I hope, is just a good example. I would, again, just encourage you to play around with this tool and to use it. Again, PASAG or Epicenter and PCCB will be rolling out a series of webinars where you can ask questions and get more practice with this tool. And again, you can always go to the contacts page and contact either Jeff Kulchin, who is the main coordinator or the main contact for PAIS, or you can go to web support. You can also find my contact information by going to the Bach Harrison website or going to that PowerPoint slide that I showed you before. Thank you so much. We really hope that everyone uses this tool, and just it can be really a powerful resource in addition to your profile report, and we would just encourage you to dive in. So thank you so much. I'm going to close my recording.